Harvey.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, how are you guys doing tonight? It is like ghosty dark up here. Like, can you even I'm about to tell you a horror story. Yeah. Hey, who's in the lead right now? Who really doesn't even care who's in the lead? Yeah. Like that was me. Like that was me at church camp, right? If I was on your team, you were out of luck because I didn't do anything. I was like, forget that. I didn't come to play games. I came to do nothing. So that's awesome, man. I'm glad you guys are having a good time. How about last night? That was so great. You guys, man, you guys just, you just pressed in, and the Spirit was just so good and so real. And then, man, Randy just brought it this morning. Like, I can't teach like that. Yeah, give it up for Randy. Come on. Yeah, I can't. I feel like I should face like this. This is like an Olin Mills picture. Who remembers Olin Mills? Like you gotta turn sideways and put your hand on the Bible. Yeah, so I was having a conversation with lunch today, which, by the way, I love you guys. I've had a great time. I'm glad to be here. But I've had a pretty bad experience just about every time I've been in line to get food. Today, somebody put ice down my shirt. Micah, Harvey, I guess you're getting me back for all the trouble I gave your dad when he was my counselor. And yeah, Greg, he used to be in Texas with me. We were homies, but now he lives up here, so that's okay. And then I went through the line yesterday on Taco Day, and I'm from Texas, and Taco Day is like a religious experience in Texas. And so I'm in line to get tacos, and I'm just really excited. And I walk up, and I ask this kid, "Where are you at, kid? Come on, there you are. Stand up. Let us all see you." So we can see you. It's negative 400 darkness in here, so. But I walk through the line. I'm like, "I would like 2 hard tacos, please." And he looks at me, and he goes, "I can only give you 1. I was like, "Are you kidding me? 1 taco?" So anyway, I didn't get like this, only eating 1 taco at a time. But yeah, now you guys are getting it. That's right. And then I walked in, and somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, are you wearing a picnic cloth for a shirt?" Says the kid with the Superman symbol on his chest. "If I punch you in the face, will you bleed?" Because if you do, you're obviously not Superman. But anyway, at lunch, or at dinner, no, it was at lunch today. At lunch today, I was sitting with my homeboy here that always wears the tie, regardless of what shirt he's rocking, and a few other people, and we were talking about hair. And I used to have I had a magnificent mane. I mean, it was incredible. This is what I was working with right here. Yeah. That is my rock face, by the way. I just got that. That was a new guitar. That was Christmas Day, like 15 years ago, and I had just gotten that guitar, and I was obviously very excited about it. So Randy asked me when he saw it, he said, "Is that a wig?" And I said, "No, that is the real deal." So as you can tell, I kind of have a wavy thing going on already. And if I let it grow out for about 15 more months, that's where we'd be. So last night we talked about respawning in God's grace, right? There's my Master Chief guy respawning. What's that? No, we didn't do the sound this time. Just wait, it'll be there. Last night we talked about respawning. And tonight I want to talk to you about another subject that is just I can't do this. This has to be shut. Sorry. There we go. Dear Lord, guys. I cannot have the door open behind me. That's how you get sneak attacked. Tonight we're going to talk about something that is of equal importance to me as we did last night, and it's something that my wife and I just absolutely love. We have had many heated, very serious debates and discussion as we just plan out the philosophy and everything involved in this subject, and that is zombies. We love zombies. We love zombie movies. We love zombie TV shows. There you go. That's one of them. We love zombies. We even have a zombie escape plan. Like, we know where to rendezvous if the zombies take over. And so, hey, hold up. Thank you. So zombies, right? Last night we talked about Ephesians chapter 2. And we talked about how we were once dead in sin, right? And then, we were alive in Christ. So oftentimes we find ourselves stuck, or people are often stuck in that dead state, and they think this is life, this is good. I'm living a good life, right? I'm having fun, I'm doing what I want. I have no consequences, I don't have to go to church and feel bad about myself. But what that is a dead person who thinks they are what? Alive, right? And so television and movies teach us that anytime there's a dead person who thinks they're alive, they are a what? A zombie. And television and movies teach us we should get a shotgun and shoot that guy, right? No, we shouldn't. No. Okay, sorry. We won't shoot anybody else for the rest of the service, I promise. But, so sometimes we're in a zombified state. And a zombified state, all that is a knockoff of the life that God has for us. All it is a like Randy said, a cheap imitation. And so if we're dead and if we're dead and we act alive, that makes us zombies. And sometimes we get into such a routine where we actually believe that we can be both. We can exist in both worlds. We can exist as a zombie, but then go to church and exist in the alive realm too, right? So we go to church and we kind of cover it up and we act like what, good Christians should act like, and then we go back to all of our brokenness and our hurt and our anger and our pain, right? But it's hard to cover up the fact that you're dead to God. You can't hide the fact that you're not alive from God. And so this is kind of like what it looks like when you try to hide the fact that you're alive, hide the fact that you're dead.
Excuse me, hi. I wanted to find out about the unlimited for life guarantee.
Sure, Sprint is guaranteeing unlimited talk, text, and data for life.
Cool. And what if, say, technically you were not alive? Like, maybe you were undead?
Like a zombie.
Whoa, let's not go putting labels on people. I'm a zombie.
Unlimited from Sprint. It's guaranteed for...
Right, so that's what we have right there. A guy who is obviously, he's falling apart. His ear is falling off, who is obviously dead, trying to act alive. And when she says, oh, like a zombie, he goes, whoa. Let's not go putting labels on things. But you know what? A zombie is just an imposter of an alive person. When you're dead, you're living an imposter life of the life that God has for you. And we behave just like that sometimes. We break down and we're dead on the inside, and we just feel so bad. And then when the Holy Spirit starts to convict us or move on us, we go, whoa, Holy Spirit, let's not go putting labels on this. I'm not ready for a close relationship with you there. We don't want to give up. We don't want to give up the grave. We don't want to give up the deadness that we live in. And so although we may not be able to look around and tell who's a zombie and who's not, God knows when you're a zombie. God knows when you're just living a life that's a knockoff of the life He intended for you. And I want to tell you right now, tonight, that God, He desires a real, authentic relationship with you. God desires real and authentic worship from you. He desires to simply be real. And so tonight, that's the title of my sermon, is Get Real. We're going to get real with God. All my Walking Dead fans, there you go. There's your music. You cannot pretend to be something that you're not. When you are dead, you are dead. There is no doubt about it. When you watch a zombie show on TV, there is never any mistaking who the dead guys are and who the alive guys are. Am I right? And so when you are a dead guy, when you are dead and in sin and lost, then there's no possible way that you can effectively live a full and fulfilled life. Living a dead life just makes you an imposter. The joy that's brought to you by sin is a bad replica of the joy that God has for you. The joy that's brought to you by sin is just a cheap knockoff of what God has for you. You know, the other day I was in New York. It was my first trip. My family took a vacation to New York. It was my first trip there. I was so excited. I mean, I've never even been on the subway. So this was like culture shock for me when I got there. And so we hop on the subway and we're going to go down to Canal Street, right? So we get on the subway, we get out at Canal Street and we walk out. And all up and down Canal Street in New York City are booth after booth after booth after booth of handbags, jewelry, sunglasses, right? And so you have like these shady little ladies, right, that are standing like this. And when you walk past them, they'll be like, Gucci handbag, Ray-Ban sunglasses, Rolex watch. And they'll just like whisper it to you, right? Just enough to catch your attention. Because what they're trying to do is sell you something that's fake. And have you ever bought something fake? Have you ever bought a fake Coach bag and it says Boach on it? Or bought fake Oakleys or something like that? It's just not as good. It's made out of pleather or the plastic's just not molded right or it just looks off. We bought my wife a pair of Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses for $5 on the side of the street in New York. And they just look weird. They look so bad. And that's how your life is when you're an imposter. When you live in a zombified state, you just live a life that looks weird. It looks bad. It's not in fellowship. It's not connected and co-joined with God the way that it should be. And I just cannot stand to have something fake. And the worst thing to me, the worst knockoff in the world is skim milk. And this sums up how I feel about skim milk right here.
There's only one thing I hate more than lying. Skim milk, which is water that's lying about being milk.
That is the truth. Skim milk, his face says it all. Skim milk is water. It is white, nasty, sloshy water that looks like milk and tastes like doo-doo. It is the worst thing that there is ever. And I just cannot stand to drink it because I know it's an imposter of the good milk that God has for me. And you know what? You shouldn't settle for a life that's an imposter. You don't have to settle for a life that is a knockoff. You don't have to settle for a life that's unfulfilling because God has a life for you that is authentic and real. It's master planned and created by the greatest God there is. And God does not want you to try and live one life and then go to church and live the other. We talked about that the other night. Randy brought it up. Lukewarm. I want you to be hot or cold. Revelation 3:16. I wish that you were hot or cold because if you're lukewarm, I spew you out of my mouth. Why? Because he knows who the real you is. He doesn't want a relationship with the zombie you. He wants a relationship with the real you, and he will only settle for the real deal. And he doesn't expect you to settle for less than the real deal either. And when we're dead, that's what we try to do. After we start to feel convicted and we start to feel bad about who we are, we start to cover up our deadness. We start to cover up our shame. You know, that's like Adam and Eve, right? When they sinned, what did they do? They covered it up, didn't they? They covered themselves. They knew that they were naked. And when we're dead, we try to do that. We try to cover up our deficiencies, our problems, our shame. And you know, have you ever seen someone try to cover up the fact that they're not something? They try to act like something they're not. And just after a while, you can tell this dude's out of his league. He's faking. When I think about imposters, when I think about someone trying to cover up something, I think about online dating profiles. Have you ever? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Because you'll go online, you see a picture like this, right? Right? And then the guy shows up to the restaurant, and that's who he's working with. Right there, right? And that's what sin does. Sin sells you a life that you think looks like this, but then to the rest of the world and to God, you look like that. I don't want you to think, man, that's the best I've got. That's the best I have to do, because God has a great and perfect life for you. And so that's how we appear to God when we live a less than authentic life. And when we're in that season of sin, life is good. Life feels so good, but it's just for a season. It's fleeting. And God can see our deadness even when we try to show the rest of the world that everything is just fine. When I try to be less than authentic with my wife, man, she can sniff it out. Like, I'll do something and I'll make her mad, and we'll fight, and then I'll go back to her and I'll be like, hey, I'm sorry, and then just go off on my own, right? Just try to like brush it. Like, how many wives are in here? How many of you know your husband gave you like a halfway apology at some point here recently? Yeah, my wife, she can totally bust me every time, because my wife doesn't want me to like just come and apologize. She wants me to like come on my knees and like kiss her feet and then take her out to dinner and buy her flowers, and like all I did was forget to do the dishes. I mean, it's like, I love you, baby. You're wonderful. But my wife can always sniff out my apology isn't quite authentic, when there's just a little bit of edge in my voice. You know, you see that with little kids, right? When they get in a fight, and then the parents come up and they're like, okay, apologize to each other, and the kid's like, sorry. You know what I'm talking about? I worked at the YMCA. That was it every day. They never wanted to apologize, and then we'd make them shake hands, like, be men, shake hands. They would never do it. And that's just a bad cover-up right there. And so this is kind of like what I'm talking about.
What time did you tell Amy to be here?
8 o'clock. Sheldon, that pocket watch is ridiculous.
Nonsense. I look like a train conductor. Under what pretext did you lure her here?
I said, hey, want to come over and hang out?
Good. If he said something clever, she might have gotten suspicious.
Hi.
What's he doing here?
Okay, he wants to talk to you.
Well, I don't want to talk to him, and I'm pretty disappointed in you, too. Although we both know that won't last.
Sheldon, you're up.
Thank you. Amy, I'd like to apologize. Your accomplishment was impressive, and I'm proud of you.
We both know that's for koala face.
I told you.
Okay, look, he bought you this.
Jewelry? Seriously? Sheldon, you are the most shallow, self-centered person I have ever met. Do you really think that another transparently Oh, it's a tiara! A tiara! I have a tiara! Put it on me, 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 put it on me.
You look beautiful.
Of course I do! I'm a princess and this is my tiara!
You're right, tiara was too much.
So Sheldon is obviously not sorry that he hurt his girlfriend's feelings. No, he goes and he says, I'm sorry, or I apologize, and that's his koala face. And those of you that didn't watch the whole episode, that's the face he makes when he sees a koala. So it's obviously a bad knockoff of an apology. And so she sees right through it at first, but then he scores a home run with the tiara. And I'm not always that lucky. But, man, that's how we are sometimes. We start to feel bad, and then we go to God and we just give him a half-hearted apology, just enough to ease how we feel. and then we go right back. We bounce right back. I've had kid after kid tell me, oh man, life is so good when I'm at camp. Life is great. Man, I'm so close to God. I'll go home and I'm on fire for God, right? And then that same kid will be like, and then like 2 months after I got home from camp, like I got on the computer and I started looking at some stuff, and I just started hanging out with some kids I shouldn't have, and then I drank some stuff, and I smoked some stuff, and I did some stuff, and then the next year at camp, they come right back, and they're jumping up and down, and they're excited, and man, we just get in a cycle like that sometimes. We get in a cycle where really we want to be alive, but we don't want to give everything that it takes to reach that level of authenticity with God. And so what does that leave us with? It leaves us with just unfulfillment. It leaves us unhappy and uncomfortable. But God knows you. He knows you so well. He knows part of you, every thought that you have. We read in Psalms 139, it says, for you, starting at 13, for you created my inmost being. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. And when I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And that right there is exactly why you don't have to live a knockoff life. That's why you don't have to be a cheap replica of what God has for you, because you were not created at the knockoff factory. You were designed by the master. You were planned. You were here on purpose. And the Bible says that every day of your life has been ordained before you even took your first breath. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're God's crowning achievement, and you're so great, and you're so wonderful, and so awesome in His eyes that He was willing to sacrifice Himself, His Son, so that you could have more than a knockoff life. So that you don't have to be a zombie, and you don't have to feel dead. You don't have to come to church camp and sit there on the pew and feel sorry for yourself, or feel bad about yourself, or feel like you're not good enough because the person in front of you raises their hands longer. You don't have to feel that way, because you are chosen. You are picked by God and placed in this life for a reason. He knew that you would be here. He knew that I would be here, and all of those decisions were made even before we were born. And then He confirms that again to Jeremiah. He tells Jeremiah in Jeremiah 1:5, He says, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and made you a prophet to the nations. God had a plan for you before your parents even knew you were coming. God had a plan for you before you had a chance to mess it up. God had a plan for you before you ever made any decision at all. And so it breaks my heart to know that a group of people who are so young and so full of potential, who could be potential world changers, pastors and missionaries, who could shift the paradigm of not only our organization, but the world that we live in, would ever possibly think that they were made for less. Because you're not made to be second class. You're not made to be just normal. You are above average. You are a co-heir. You are chosen. You're a child of the King. You don't have to live a knockoff life. You don't have to live a life that's just cheap and imitation. You are authentically made. And so if we're authentically made, and God did such a great job designing us, then why? Why do we choose a life of deadness? Why do we end up so hurt and broken and separated from God? And here's what I think. I think the reason that although we know better and we know God has joy and hope planned for us, and that's no secret. Most of you have been to church camp before. I saw the hands raised on the first day. So I know you all know that God has a plan for you. I know that more than likely you've all heard Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans for you, declares the Lord, right? Plans for a hope and a future. And so we all know that we have that. But what makes us not live that life? What makes us live a dead, zombified life of imitation? And I think it's because we buy into a lie that we're not worthy of it. We're not worthy. I think that sometimes we just feel bad about who we are, about what we've done and the decisions we made. I talked to someone today about that very subject. Man, I feel bad about myself that I still struggle with these things. You know, I'm a good Christian. I love God, but I still struggle with this. And we let those temptations and struggles lie to us and tell us that because we can't get rid of them, that we're not even worthy of the life God has for us. So what do? We cling to them instead of clinging to the Creator. But you are not saved by worth. You are saved by grace. Grace is a wonderful separator because it separates you from a life of deadness and brings you into hope. And one of my favorite stories about being worthy is told by Jesus. It's a parable, the parable of the lost son. It's in Luke 15, and you don't have to pull it up. I'm gonna give the story to you. But rather than being about a lost son, I think it's more so a story about a good father. And so there was a man who had two sons. And he was rich. And one day his son came to him, his youngest son came to him, and he said, "Dad, I feel that I am now worthy to receive what is mine. So if you would kindly cut me my inheritance check, I will be on my way into the world." Man, if that were my daughter, and she ever came up to me and said, "Father, I feel that I am now worthy of the life you have given me," I would say, "Shut up. Shut up and finish the Cheerios I paid for and go put on the shoes that I purchased so you can get into my car and I will drive you to school because you're not worthy to be my daughter. You're not worthy of the life that you have. No, you have the life because it's given to you." And so this son, he takes his money and he puts it in the bank and he hops on Expedia.com and he gets his plane ticket out of there and he flies straight to Vegas, baby, and he hits the Strip. And while he's there, man, he lives it up. He goes to parties. He hits the blackjack table. He's got girls. He's got friends. He's got everything that you could ever ask for. Every single thing he could ever want. This is living, man. This is joy. This is awesome. I don't have to listen to my father or live a life of consequence. No, I get to do it all. And then one day after a big night of partying, he wakes up and he goes to Starbucks to order a mocha frappuccino, and he swipes his card and it gets declined. And he finds out he's out of money. now he has to get a job. And so he gets on monster.com and he's looking for a job, but guess what? The recession has hit hard, and there is famine in the land, and he cannot find anywhere to work. And so finally, after searching high and low, he comes across this job in Arkansas working with pigs, and he gets to live with the pigs and eat their slop. And who knows what pig slop is? That is pig slop. It is like all the leftover food from every church camp cafeteria ever put into one thing. And so there he is, he's feeding the pigs and he's eating this slop. And one day he thinks to himself, you know what? Even the servants in my father's house get to eat 3 times a day. Even the butler gets treated better than this. I know what I'll do. I'll go back to my son. I'll go back to my father and I'll say, Dad, I am no longer fit to be called your son. If you would just please take me in as a servant. And so he gets down, he writes his letter, and he's all ready, and he starts making his way back home. And his father is standing outside as his son approaches. And his son starts walking up the driveway, and his father sees him. And he drops everything that he's doing and runs to him. And he runs and he wraps his arms around him and he starts to kiss him. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And the son's like, Dad, I gotta talk to you, Dad. Let me apologize to you, Dad. And the dad's not listening. He's hugging and he's kissing and he's just so elated. He's so filled with joy. And he says, Dad, wait, Dad. I'm not worthy. And his dad says, Stop right there. Because my son, he was dead, but now he's alive. My son, he had settled for a life of imitation. He'd settled for a life of deadness, but now he's alive. I want to tell you right now that even though you may feel like you're not worthy, it's not about whether or not you're worthy. You were never worthy. I'm not worthy to stand up here. I'm not worthy to speak to you tonight. It's not about your worth. It's about your Savior, Jesus Christ. He died for you. He gave it all for you. Don't you ever, ever, ever settle for less. And so tonight, I know there's a prodigal. There's got to be a prodigal like me. Because I'm a prodigal. I've run. I've believed the lies. I've hidden from God. And I felt that feeling of being unworthy. So I know that tonight I can't be the only one who said at one time, I'm going to take this life of deadness. I'm going to take this life of deadness, and this is it. This is what I deserve. I know I can't be the only one. And so what I want to tell you tonight, to those of you that know what I'm talking about and know that feeling, with Jesus and in grace, you will never, ever get what you deserve. You will never get the heartbreak that you deserve. You will never get the filth that you deserve. You will never get the death that you deserve, because His grace has covered it all. And so tonight, if you'll stand to your feet, I want to tell you right now that not one person here has to leave and go back to a knockoff life. Not one person has to leave and go back to a non-authentic life, tonight is your chance. Whether you have been saved and in church your entire life, or whether you don't even know what I'm talking about, tonight is your chance to start a real and authentic life with Him. And so tonight, if you're ready to say, God, I want something real, God, I want something lasting, then I want you to step forward. Come forward tonight. If that's you, if you're ready to say, forget this fake life, forget this knockoff life. I'm created to be more than that. I'm created to be better than that. Then this is the place for you. If I can get some, oh dear God, if I can get some altar workers up here. Tonight is your night because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. There is not a single one of you that is not covered by what Jesus has done. There's not a single one of you that has to live that life. Adults, come up here. Let them through, guys. If you need to pray with somebody, these adults are up here for you. These altar workers are up here for you. Your friends are up here for you. Just because you're not an adult, you can come if you have a heart to pray with them. And I want you to find somebody to pray with. I want you to find somebody, and we're going to stand in agreement tonight and say, no more fakeness, no more dirtiness. I'm ready for the real deal, God. I'm ready for the real thing. So come on, let's find somebody to pray with tonight.